Hello, everybody, and welcome into the MVP show for Sunday, December 20th. The holiday season is upon us. We are done with finals alongside Dan Passante and Brennan Miller. I'm John Vicari. Boys, how are we feeling? I think you guys are feeling pretty good, especially with your NFL teams and this close to the holiday season.
Things are great. Oh yeah, semester's over. The certain team in Western New York is in the playoffs. Things are good. Things are good to say the least.
Yeah, Packers still in first place. I got to watch about 6,000 Bills fans show up to the airport to welcome the Bills home yesterday, which was just an awesome thing to watch, video-wise. And you love content, and that's pretty much the best content that you can get.
Yeah, a lot of them there. And it was funny because I think, what was it, Dan, 2017, there was a lot of them who came out as well. But and people were expecting either the numbers to be lower because of COVID or higher because it's a division instead of just a playoff berth. But passionate fan base, to say the least. But you didn't make the trek up to Buffalo, right, Dan?
No, I didn't. I should have a few years ago when they went. This year, obviously, is a little different. But next time, hopefully, in the next 25 years, then I'll go.
Absolutely. Well, I don't have the same fortune that you guys have in terms of your teams. The Giants had a week, let's just say, to start things off. I think a quote just to encapsulate the holiday season and what Thursday this past week was for the Giants. It was one of those days when things just kept going from bad to worse. That's from The Year Without a Santa Claus in 1974. Great movie. But it's really what happened with the Giants on Thursday. First, it started out with the grand news that Jason Garrett, the offensive coordinator for the Giants, tested positive for COVID and would not be available for Sunday's game. Instead, next man up would be Freddie Kitchens, who was Cleveland's head coach last year, led them to a 6-10 season, by the way, and is the Giants' tight end, now offensive coordinator for this Sunday, in terms of what his role is on the team. So you got that. Not a great start, but hey, Giants fans were sort of split on their perception of Garrett and his ability to play golf. Then, later in the day, like 4 hours later, James Bradberry, the Giants' top corner, had a contact with a high-risk person with COVID, not in the organization, but just in his personal life. So he's out for Sunday. He doesn't have COVID. The test came back negative, but they wanted to quarantine him for a certain amount of time. So he's a no-go for Sunday Night Football tonight. And then the Giants don't have a practice because of all the news surrounding this with Jason Garrett and with James Bradberry. And it was reported that Daniel Jones would have been limited in that practice because he hurt his, I believe it was the right hamstring. Well, last week he hurt his left ankle on top of that, so he was limited. And now we know, after news unfolded these last couple days, that Jones will not start tonight on Sunday Night Football. It will instead be Colt McCoy making his second start for the Giants this season and his fifth start in 5 years, which is not great. It's not great, and that's why I use that quote. And on top of that, the days after Thursday, Darnay Holmes, who's the rookie cornerback for the Giants, has had a great season. He's out with a knee injury that he got versus Arizona. And Brett Bielema, who's the offensive line coach for the Giants, took a job with Illinois for next college football season. So the Giants are without their usual tight end coach this week, outside linebacker coach, and Brett Bielema, who took a job with college. So everything's all over the place for the Giants. In a week in which they couldn't afford anything really to happen, and especially COVID outbreak, because of the way they played last week. They lost to Arizona 26-7, and in a game they frankly didn't show up in. I understand Daniel Jones wasn't 100%, which means he shouldn't have been out there, by the way, but he wasn't 100%, and I understand the offense not doing much with him. But in terms of just how the game unfolded, time and possession-wise, you would hope they collect a couple first downs, and if not, get Colt McCoy in there. Because the reason the Giants lost this game, and this is no shot to defense, but they got tired over time because the offense was 3 and out, and eventually the defense kept bending and bending until they eventually had a break, and Arizona had their way with the Giants. And it was amazing because I think last week I came on the show and I was gleeful about the Giants. You know, there was hope. That was really smashed versus Arizona, not in the fact that, hey, it is just one game and their playoff chances are worse now, but they are still possible. But the problem was just not showing up, because you look at that game and there's not one positive aspect you could take. Even the special teams, which has been rough actually over the last couple of weeks, did not show up as well. There was not one facet of that game that you could really put a positive light on, except for the fact that I believe that Jones wasn't 100%, so that wasn't him at his best. I don't know, but Brennan, any comment on this Giant? I guess the news. I'm sure it was very not happy, but it was just chaotic this week, and especially their performance last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you take a look at the Giants and where they sit in the playoff race, I mean, I said it last week. I think that last week was a prove-it game for the Giants. I don't think that they did. I think that while you can factor in that Daniel Jones probably wasn't playing at 100%, he definitely wasn't playing at 100% 2 weeks ago when, Colt McCoy was a starting quarterback either, and they still won that game. So I think that even with Jones being injured, I think that they probably should have put up a little bit more of a fight against the Cardinals. For the Cardinals, I mean, it's a good win and a win that keeps you in the race for the NFC West, which up to this point has been the best division in football. But for the Giants, I think that that's a huge blow, especially with the Washington football team on a bit of a run, led, of course, by Chase Young, who last week had just had a ridiculous play to pick up that fumble and take it all the way back. And just being like, palming the ball all the way to the end zone and being like, hey, look how big my hands are. I don't even need to cradle this. But I think that it sets them back in the race for first place in the NFC East. And I think that a loss last week really, really damaged their playoff chances. And at this point, I would be worried if I were you, John, because you don't want to see your backup quarterback getting as many starts as Colt McCoy has this season, one already with a second one coming today. And I think that is a big point of contention for the Giants, is the fact that while Colt McCoy did win a game, you don't want him in the game, but you also know that the Giants offense doesn't run the same as it normally would when Daniel Jones is hurt. And he is doubly hurt this week with both the hamstring and the ankle. So I think that there is some cause for concern for the Giants.
Yeah, and yeah, Dan, you want to jump in?
I was just going to say that, whenever Freddie Kitchens is involved, I think a lot of people get nervous. The most upvoted comment on Reddit is this guy that says, Freddie Kitchen calling plays for Colt McCoy, Browns D as RB1 this week in fantasy. I'm like, well, I don't know. It makes me I didn't realize that it was such a rough week for the Giants. I saw that they lost, but I didn't know that, the question is who will be a part of the team rather than who was last week, with a big difference. Yeah, I guess I'm a little surprised then that there's so much that's going wrong with the Giants at this point. But I guess I would agree. I'd be a little nervous, but you are the Giants expert.
Sure.
So what do you think?
Yeah, no, expert's a strong use of that word, but in terms of just, again, how this week went and last week, it was the worst time this could happen. You could afford for this to happen in week 7 and week 8 when you're contending for a playoff spot, and this to happen in week 14 and 15. Not ideal. In terms of what Dan said, in terms of Freddie Kitchens and Colt McCoy, it's not what you want. It's not what you want. And there's going to be personal motivation, I think, for Colt McCoy to show the Browns that he should have been the starter at the beginning of the decade when he was contending for that job. And maybe Freddie Kitchens will have motivation as well. But so will everyone on Cleveland. So I don't think really that's a storyline in this game. I'm sure it's something to follow, but there'll be a lot of players on Cleveland that want to show Freddie Kitchens, who maybe was undervalued when he was head coach, that, hey, maybe last year you should have started me and you'd still be the head coach here. I don't know, but it's not the best case scenario at all for the Giants, and it's going to be tough. And again, what I do each and every week, I look at how the Giants could win this game, and it's going to be tough. You look at Cleveland, and we've talked about it, but their strong suit is the running attack. They're third best in the NFL with 156.2 rushing yards per game, which is unbelievable. The Giants are a top 10 rush defense. They rank 7th and allow 101.5 yards per game. So the Giants have to, again, win at the line of scrimmage and at least contain the run. There really isn't, I think, stopping the run with Cleveland. They're going to get at least 100 yards, but there's a difference between 150 and 100 in a close game. Last week, though, the Giants got killed by Arizona. Arizona had 153 rushing yards, and it was not pretty. And Arizona's rushing attack, even though I love Chase Edmonds as a flex on my fantasy team from time to time, and Kenyon Drake's a good back as well, is not Kareem Hunt and is not Nick Chubb. So they're going to be even more tested today against Cleveland. And we talked about motivation with Cleveland wanting to be Kitchens and McCoy, but they have motivation because they're still not a guaranteed a playoff spot. Most likely they will, but they're not tops in their division. That's Pittsburgh. And they have Baltimore on their heels as well. So even though Cleveland's had a great season and they most likely will be in a wild card, they have to continue because there's teams in the AFC that want that spot. In terms of Baker Mayfield, and this sort of encapsulates stopping the run game, Mayfield is the second best quarterback in play action scenarios. He has 9.9 yards per attempt in play action throws. So this thing for the Giants there. Yeah.
Who's first?
I would say Aaron Rodgers because you. Wow. There you go. Yeah, but maybe
you know it.
But Mayfield is second. But think about that. That's actually really good thing for Brennan to point out. The only person better is Aaron Rodgers, who has been a franchise quarterback for years. So Mayfield definitely, and that offense is running well with the play action stuff. And by the way, that too, all wearing Christmas sweaters. And if Dan, you want to throw yours up, holiday season, and we have fashion, so when we could pull this off. So, and mine's a Santa goalie, if you can't tell. But yeah, but besides that, the Giants again, the keys are going to be stopping the run game, which in help makes the effectiveness of Baker Mayfield diminished. And again, this game's going to be won by their defense. The offense has trouble scoring 20 points even with Daniel Jones as a quarterback. With Colt McCoy and a strong Cleveland defensive unit that's going to have Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon off the edge coming at Colt McCoy, it's going to be a rough one. But it starts with the defense standing on its head tonight. So those are the keys. And again, we talked about inactives. They'll probably come closer to kickoff, which again, the Giants versus Cleveland, Sunday Night Football. But Darnay Holmes, as I mentioned, is out with a knee. Of course, Jones is out, as well as James Bradbury. The line is 6.5 or 7, depending on where you get it, with Cleveland as the favorite. And we'll definitely analyze this game in our NFL game picks coming up later in the show. But now we'll shift to college football. And if you're with us right now, thank you, because the College Football Selection Show is on currently. And the way I sort of scheduled this out, boys, I looked last year, and the college football playoffs top 4, which they reveal before the rest of the rankings, which, thank goodness, they don't keep people latching on for an hour. But that usually happens closer to 12:20. It's 12:18 to 12:23 is that hot zone for when those picks are revealed. So we'll get them to you right when we know about them. And I'm sure Brennan has it on his TV and is watching very closely. But if you're with us, we're about to give you our predictions and then react to when it is revealed. So we're covering it, don't worry. Just a recap of yesterday's activities in college football. You had the Pac-12 championship. That was Friday night. Oregon, who didn't really deserve to be there. They were the second best team in their division, but Washington had a dropout due to COVID. They wound up beating number 13 USC by a score of 31-24. So Oregon is the Pac-12 champions. Then you go to Saturday, Big 12 championship, a very close game. Oklahoma just edged out Iowa State. It was a top 10 matchup. Oklahoma was ranked 10. Iowa State ranked 6th. And unfortunately for the Cyclones, because I think if they got that win versus Oklahoma, because they were already 6th in the rankings, they might have sneaked in at number 4 today, or at least had a better shot than Oklahoma has today, because Oklahoma's losses are worse. Instead, Iowa State cannot get the job done, and they won't be a part of the college football playoff at all, but gave a valiant effort against Oklahoma yesterday. Then you go to the Big Ten championship, and for a while, boys, it was close. Don't know if you were watching, but it was at noon. Ohio State did win. It was a 22-10 victory. And it was all because of Trey Sermon. He ran for 29 rushes, 331 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including the go-ahead score. Justin Fields had really an average game, which isn't good for his, wanting to go into the NFL. But he will have definitely a college football playoff game to bolster his resume before he enters the draft portal. And for Northwestern, Cam Porter, their rusher, showed up as well. 16 rushes, 61 yards, and a touchdown. But Northwestern's defense played well, but eventually they needed to score points, and they did not come. So they fell short to Ohio State. Now we'll go to the American Championship, and that was a late-night game. And Cincinnati, Brennan, they survived Tulsa. They won by a field goal. Cole Smith had a 34-yarder to give Cincinnati the advantage. Cincinnati's undefeated. Do they have a shot at number 4? I wish, but they will probably be left out of the college football playoffs. We'll get our predictions on that, but I wish you could put an undefeated Cincy in, but Maybe if they steamroll Tulsa, their resume would look better, but just squeaking by definitely, I think, hurt more than helped them, even though they remain undefeated and are the American champions. You go to the SEC championship, and I think this was the game of yesterday. It was a 52-46 win for Alabama. Unlike most SEC championships that we grew up with, usually it's a ground and pound defensive game. Instead, Bama's offense just came to play. Mac Jones, 418 yards, 5 touchdowns. Najee Harris, 178 yards on the ground with a TD. And future Giant Devontae Smith with 15 catches, 189 yards, and 2 touchdowns. For Florida, Kyle Trask showed up as well, 408 yards and 3 touchdowns, but a costly fumble late really deterred Florida. And Kadarius Toney with 8 catches, 153, and a touchdown for Florida. Brennan and Dan, your takeaways from yesterday's slate, I think it was, for me, Alabama is by far the best team in college football. And, oh, by the way, I think we forgot Clemson versus Notre Dame, which was supposed to be, by the way, I think I skipped that, was supposed to be the big game, 3 versus 2. Clemson just shellacked the Fighting Irish yesterday, and it was Lawrence who threw for 322 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, I skipped that game really because I skipped it in my mind and didn't turn on the second half because it was over at half. But the takeaways for me were Devontae Smith is a stud, and he put up Desmond Howard-like numbers this season. I think he should be considered for the Heisman Trophy. It's usually a quarterback award, so Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence are the favorites for that. But I think Devontae Smith deserves a fair shot. And Florida impressed me as well. I thought going in that Bama was going to have an easy time at Florida. They were 17-point favorites, but Florida played them till the very end, and as I said, Alabama, I think, is head and shoulders above every other team in college football. So Florida gave it their best shot, just came up short. But Brennan and Dan, your takeaways, and then we'll follow it with predictions and hopefully a reveal of the college football Final Four.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think the one thing that Johnny didn't mention is that the AP already put out their poll for today. So the AP has already released who they think the top 4 teams in the country are, and it's in order: Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, as we predict it will be for college football playoff as well. But then they still have Notre Dame in the top 4. Notre Dame is their number 4 team with Texas A&M at 5, which doesn't make any sense to me. But at this point, I wouldn't doubt if the college football playoff does the same exact thing. I think that Notre Dame proved yesterday that they're not really a team that is in the top 4 of college football right now. I think that Texas A&M, their only loss at this point is to Alabama, who is far and away going to be the national champion and is the best team in college football this season. I think Alabama will easily win the national championship this year. I get it that Clemson is a team that can compete, and they're a team that beat up on Notre Dame yesterday, but I think that Alabama is just too good. Ideally, who I would like to see in the college football playoff, it goes Alabama, 1, Clemson at 2, Ohio State at 3, because you got to keep Ohio State in there as the Big Ten champion. Northwestern had a lot of opportunities to win that game yesterday and decided to throw them out the window. And with that, I think the Big Ten is represented by Ohio State. At 4, I do like Texas A&M. Then also, I'd like 5 Notre Dame, 6 Cincinnati, 7 Coastal Carolina, and 8, I don't know, maybe throw Oklahoma in there as the Big 12 champion because we should have an 8-team playoff. But no, we're going to pick the same blue blood Final Four teams that we do every single year. And let them compete for the only thing that matters in the college football playoff championship. Because why not? We do the same thing every year, so let's keep doing it because we keep making money off of it. But no, it's ridiculous. You should have your undefeated non-Power 5 teams in there, whether it be Coastal Carolina, whether it be who has ranked wins this year, whether it be Cincinnati, who has ranked wins this year. And even though they were just showing on screen, their strength of schedule is 77th in the country. Their average margin of win is 23 points. So they're a team that is they can hang with these big Power 5 teams, and they should be in the playoff. We're going to have 2 SEC teams, an ACC team, and a Big Ten team in the playoff, as we normally do.
Wow.
And I think that's just kind of ridiculous because I think that Texas A&M is going to bump out Notre Dame, but it's going to be one of those 2 teams, whether it's Notre Dame or Texas A&M is the 4th team.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I was rooting for chaos. I was hoping Northwestern would win. That would have been awesome. One person I was not rooting for was Brian Kelly, because he says he doesn't want to play in the playoff because families can't be there. That's the reason. I think it's because he knew he would lose if he made it to the playoffs.
See, Dan, I thought you would be with Kelly on this because Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that no one should be playing at all. Okay?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
no one should be there. But now that they are there, and he wants to be out there and playing, he thinks that he's not going to go because families can't be there. Brian Kelly, do you realize that you're on the field so the NCAA can make money? Not so people can watch you, not so families can watch you. It's to make money. Wow. So it's not about it's never been about the fans. Okay, I think he knows that he would get shellacked if he got in the playoffs. I think that Alabama's the best team. I would definitely agree with that. That was my big opinion, was really the Brian Kelly thing. Now I'm kind of out of it. I've been listening to Colin Cowherd all week, which is always good for your health. That's all you're listening to. And he said that he's like, an 8-team playoff is coming. I've been talking to people all over. 8 teams coming next year, and he's like adamant about this. So I don't know. I don't know if you want to. I can't say he's not trustworthy, but if you believe that, then that's on the way. But this year, yeah, I think Alabama should definitely be in it. Ohio State, as much as it hurts me, I wanted to say Northwestern. Clemson for sure. A&M, Coastal Carolina, whoever. But yeah, from Brian Kelly, I was just like, really, man. I don't believe him is my problem.
See, I'm split on Notre Dame in 2 ways. One, with the Brian Kelly stuff, because it comes, I think, opposite from Coach K, it comes from something genuine. I don't think Brian Kelly just thought, you know what, I really want to see everyone's mom and dad there. I think some players, or he feels in the locker room that his players are, I guess missing their families, which is understandable. They've been, unlike us, they're not at home. They're playing, and they haven't been able to have their parents or family visit them or, come up for the games at South Bend. It's been inclusive to only, or exclusive, I should say, to the faculty, staff, and people on campus. So I understand that from away. But to Dan's point, too, you're not in there, Brian Kelly. So for him to say that, it's a little fishy. I don't know. I thought, Dan, you would praise him more than go after him. I was very surprised by that take just based on, your past thoughts with this. But in terms of on the field, Notre Dame, I disagree with Brennan here, because what do you value more? I don't know what you value more. Do you value Texas A&M getting beat by 4 scores by Alabama, who I know is the best team in college football, or Clemson, who beat Notre Dame, Notre Dame, who did beat Clemson? It was without Tua, but they beat them in a great game. And even yesterday, they didn't show up, but it was still closer than how Alabama got beat by Texas A&M in terms of numbers. And you could look at it too. Do they value a team that made it to their conference championship? This is no shot at Texas A&M, but they weren't playing yesterday in a championship game. It was another game to bolster their resume, but it wasn't the SEC championship. Notre Dame won their division in the ACC, and I understand it's because of Alabama, but they had a chance to make it. Texas A&M did, and then they faltered, and they weren't in the SEC championship game. It's tough in terms of division, but that's the way it crumbled. So do you value a Notre Dame with 1 loss, or Texas A&M with 1 loss? Notre Dame lost in an ACC championship game, while Texas A&M lost it early on in the regular season. It's tough because I think Texas A&M probably got better as a team as well. And then finally, in terms of Notre Dame, we know from the last couple of years, we keep giving them these college football playoff opportunities, and they lay an egg each and every time. Now, is that reflective of this year's roster? Maybe yesterday was just a fluke, and they would beat Clemson if matched up for the 3rd time this season. Maybe, but the last couple of years, pretty much last year's college football playoff, and if you go back all the way 2013, losing to Alabama in the title game when people didn't believe they should have been there, and then they got rolled, that Matt Teo year, like Notre Dame in the last couple of years for the college football playoff have really just not shown up. Brendan, are you raising your hand because the college football playoff reveal has, come to light? Awesome. Give us the top 4.
Alabama's number 1. They have not released the other ones.
See, it's 12:25 now. What are they waiting on? What is yeah?
2.
What was it?
Clemson is number 2.
Yeah, I was about to say, usually they release it 4-1, but I think 1-4 is more interesting this year just because it's like, who is number 4? But we'll see. So you got Alabama number 1, and who is it? Clemson number 2, which is predictable, and we should have Ohio State as number 3, I would think.
Yes.
And that's official?
Not yet. No, they have cut to Clemson's indoor practice facility to show Trevor Lawrence celebrating being number 2.
Great. I'm sure they'll give us a 15-minute interview with Dabo, too. To be fair, though, ESPN at least gives you in the first half hour. Forever, the March Madness tournament would just keep milking it, and it's just like I'm sitting here 40 minutes to see St. John's playing a playing game. Come on. But yep, 3 is Iowa State.
Yes.
There we go. All right, so now number 4. All right, I got Notre Dame. Brennan, you have Texas A&M. Dan, who's your number 4 before it drops?
Man,
just say Cincy.
I want to say Coastal Carolina, but I know that's not going to happen. So I'm going to say Cincinnati. Yes, that'll just be fun. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, so, and again, we're waiting for this reveal, and then we're going to break it down, and maybe Brendan and I will disagree, especially on who is in this slot. Again, Texas A&M didn't make it to the SEC Championship, but only has 1 loss, and that being against number 1 Alabama. And Notre Dame split this year versus Clemson, but that win versus Clemson was without Trevor Lawrence, and yesterday they lost by 24 points to Clemson in the ACC title game. So it's really interesting where the committee's going to go here. And by the look on Brennan's face,
they didn't reveal who for it. They cut back to the panel.
Oh my god! And of course they got
making us wait.
Which why tease us? Some people have to do an hour radio show, so why tease us? But they're
making us wait. Yeah, so they have up on the screen right now a resume comparison: Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Cincinnati. Strength of schedule: Notre Dame 13, A&M 10, Cincinnati 77. But like I said, the margin of victory is sub 12 for both Notre Dame and A&M, but 23 for Cincinnati. I don't know. I the question I ask, and I hate to agree with Jimbo Fisher, but he said it yesterday. The fact that A&M is a 1-loss SEC team, and how many 1-loss SEC teams have failed to make the college football playoff since it was introduced? The answer is 0. 0 1-loss SEC teams have ever missed the college football playoff. So I don't see how the committee leaves them out. I get that Notre Dame is a team that they did beat Clemson, but they also beat Clemson. And here's the thing that I did not agree with leading up to this hype between Notre Dame and Clemson is the fact that they were talking about Trevor Lawrence coming back and him being the difference maker in this game. I'm not even going to try and say the backup quarterback for Clemson's name because it's Pacific Islander, and I'm not equipped to be able to do that. But he threw for over 400 yards and like 5 touchdowns.
True. So
I don't understand what big of a difference Lawrence made. The big difference was them getting their middle linebacker back, who, of course, the captain of the defense. And I think that's what makes the difference in that game, not Trevor Lawrence. But the graphic is back up. 1 through 6, they are about to announce, I believe.
And I bet you they go 6-5-4 because they love to tease. And by the way, just in terms of how the show, we'll get a reaction to this, then a quick NBA season preview, MVP of the week, and then conclude it with our NFL picks. And by the look on Brennan's face, who is Texas A&M 6? Did they drop?
The Fighting Irish will again play for the national championship. They're number 4.
Wow. So there you go. And you know, I can't be surprised because again, and this isn't even, I don't think, marketability, but I want to watch Bama Notre Dame before I want to watch Bama Texas A&M again. It's a unique matchup. I don't know. People are gonna, and I know, Brennan, you're definitely in disagreement with this. Texas A&M had their shot versus Bama, and I know what happened with Clemson and Notre Dame, but Notre Dame does have their only loss is a team that they did beat. Even though, again, it wasn't the same team. But, it's tough. And again, people may preach Notre Dame bias, and I think that exists to a certain extent. But, I think this year is definitely I wouldn't even say a determiner, because I think if we're in the same scenario next year, it would sort of go to Notre Dame again. But if Notre Dame gets blown out, people are going to be all over them and all over the committee because year after year, they've given Notre Dame the shot to play in the college football playoff, even though they would, falter late season with 1 loss, a couple years undefeated. But usually they have at least 1 loss, but the committee puts them in there even with an independent schedule because they load it up. This year, putting them in. And this values it too, Brennan. Do they value the ACC? I mean, maybe it's just the games we're breaking down, but do they value, the committee, the ACC more than the SEC?
Yeah, I think that they look at the ACC and the gauntlet of teams that they have there: Duke, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest.
That's what I'm saying.
They just say that both Clemson and Notre Dame, they ran through that powerhouse of a conference. No. I mean, the SEC is far and away a better division than the ACC. At the top, maybe not, but consistently the SEC puts more teams in the top 25 than the ACC does.
Yeah.
I get it. This year we had North Carolina who hovered like 18 to 25 all season, but at the same time, like they weren't really a huge contender outside of the first 3 weeks of the year. A&M is 5, in case that matters, but at this point it doesn't. And John, I'd like to know, Alabama, Notre Dame, 1 versus 4.
Yeah.
What do you think the spread opens up at that game?
The thing is, Bama, Florida opened up at 17. So I would say 10, which now, like, this is the thing, though. But Brennan, imagine it was Bama, Texas A&M. What does that spread open up at when Bama beat them by 28? It'd be the same thing, in my opinion. That's the only reason. But you're right. It's going to be, I think, Clemson, Ohio State may be 6 or 3 there. I don't know, but I think it'll be under double digits. I think no matter who Bama played it for, it would have been double digits, in my opinion. I don't know. Do you think Texas A&M would have been, because they lost by 28? Who's 6? 6 is probably Coastal, I hope. Who is it?
No.
Oklahoma.
Keep guessing. Yeah.
Oklahoma. Yeah.
Oklahoma.
So, and that's
a joke.
That's ridiculous in itself, too. You rank them at 10, and now they beat Iowa State still with 2 losses, and you value them over an undefeated Cincy. Man, they got to get to 8 because they're never going to give these Group 5 teams a shot. And you can't even argue like a Notre Dame that they've gotten a fair shake. Boise back in the day got pretty much screwed out of playing in the in the national championship game back when it was 1-2. And even though college football likes to make fun of them for declaring themselves champion, UCF never got a chance at the big time, even though they beat who they had to. I don't understand it, and especially Cincy, because I can understand Coastal Carolina, because they're not in a top-tier conference. But if you look at the Power 5, the best Group of 5 conference, and I'm sure maybe some MAC fans out there would argue, but the American is the 6th best conference in football. It is, and
I mean, you look at, there's 3 teams in the top 25 right now who don't have losses. San Jose State, Coastal Carolina, Cincinnati. They average, if you take all their wins, put them together, they average just under 9 wins per team, I think, and 0 losses. None of those teams are in the top 6. That is absurd.
Yeah.
Absolutely absurd. How can you go through as a Group of 5 team and play your season knowing that there is a 0% chance that you will have any opportunity to play for the national championship?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. The top 6 teams are all, let's see, SEC, ACC, Big 10, Independent, ACC, SEC, Big 12.
Yeah.
Come on.
And you look, too, what is Cincy, especially in this year, supposed to do? And you have to adjust year-on-year basis. I understand a normal season you'd want, hey, Cincy, when you're not playing your conference, schedule someone who's tough. I understand that. But this year, it was for the most part, conferences playing conferences. Cincy did what they had to do. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they'll get a New Year's Bowl. Maybe they play Texas A&M at the Cotton Bowl or the Peach Bowl or the Citrus Bowl or what have you. But it definitely leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But, there's your top 4. Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Similar, not similar, exactly what the AP poll, which dropped an hour before, determined as well. And I'm sure the committee chair will be asked by everyone why Notre Dame over Texas A&M. But we'll shift now to the NBA season preview. No clean transition, but there you go. Live reaction to college football playoff. And Brennan just still looks disgusted.
Because I am.
Yeah. And one final note on the college football playoff. The Rose Bowl is one of the bowls that was supposed to be for one of the 2 semifinal games. Due to regulations in the state of California, and specifically Santa Clara, they're moving that game out of the Rose Bowl, and it will be in Jerry's World, AT&T Stadium, which is funny for 2 reasons. One, if it's the Rose Bowl in Arlington, Texas, or Fort Worth, or wherever, that will be hilarious just to call that the Rose Bowl and it's at Jerry's World, just for marketing's sake. And secondly, the region that the Cowboys Stadium is at, where AT&T Stadium is at, has a higher percentage of positive COVID rates than the California one. Now, population has to be taken to an effect as well, but if you look at sheer percentage numbers, it's 17 to, I believe, 15. So you look at that, okay, it is, I guess, splitting hairs in a way, but it's not like where they're going has a worse. It's a better one, I should say. It's worse. So I don't understand it. You move it to somewhere with 5%, that makes sense. Or, one of the best, best I would say, cities with a stadium in terms of percentage numbers, that makes sense. But moving into somewhere which is actually worse in terms of percentage, not a great optic, but that's what the Rose Bowl and College Football Playoff had to decide. And I'm sure they'll, I think 1 versus 4 would probably be the Rose Bowl, and 2 versus 3 would be Sugar, but we'll see when that comes out. So now we'll shift to an NBA season preview, because believe it or not, through all the hysteria, which is the football season, the NBA tips off this Tuesday, December 22nd, and we're not going to go so in-depth and, give you a conference ranking or projections, but the 3 main things that I think everyone wants in an NBA season preview: who you think is going to win the MVP, Rookie of the Year, and finally the finals matchup and the NBA champion. I'll start. I think mine's pretty good. I think Dan's going to like my finals matchup, but start with MVP. I think it's Luka Doncic. He has the best odds in Vegas right now. He showed up in the bubble. The team around him needs him. He is the most valuable player if you actually look at the award. Maybe LeBron's a better player. Maybe Curry's a better player. But in terms of their team, the Mavs, in my opinion, are not a playoff team, or very slim, without Doncic. Doncic puts them in the top 4, and he definitely needs help, but he is a worldly player, keeps getting better, so he is my MVP pick. My Rookie of the Year pick, it may be a little home bias, but I'm going with Obi Toppin, Obi-Wan, and the New York Knicks, for one reason and one reason only. Because the Knicks are so dreadful, Obi-Wan Toppin is going to get lots of reps. He's going to get the chance to develop over time, and he's going to hopefully play a full, barring injury, obviously, a full season where other rookies may, on good teams, like even LaMelo Ball, which may be one of your 2 predictions, he's on a really good team. And if Charlotte down the line is contending for a playoff spot, then he may get lesser minutes. The Knicks may be a fringe playoff team at best, maybe get into that playing game or 9-10, but right now, as they're currently constituted, Obi's going to get a lot of minutes just because of how the Knicks are, their roster is right now. So that's why it's my pick. And then finally, the finals. I think the West is very easy to make a decision on. I'm going with the Lakers, the team that was there last year, the defending NBA champions. They've gotten even better. LeBron is there, of course. And they've added Marc Gasol. They've added Dennis Schroeder, and they're an even better team than they were last year. And coming out of the East, it may be a surprise. Maybe Dan disagrees with this, but I have the Boston Celtics. It's a new era Showtime matchup. Lakers versus Celtics is my finals prediction. The East is wide open. The Bucks are probably going to be the favorites if you look at it coming out of the East. You got the Nets, who are really good, and as well as the Celtics and the Raptors. But I'm picking the Celtics. Brennan, you can go with your season preview, but I think you have another college football note for us.
Yeah, they dropped spreads.
Oh, jeez.
Caesar, Alabama at 17.5.
Oh, my God.
And Clemson at 6.5.
So there you go. I was almost on 6. Yeah, but
yeah. Also, just gonna be quick with my NBA stuff, because honestly, I'm not an NBA fan, and I don't really have huge opinions. I want to leave Dan as much time as possible, so I'm gonna go quick. For MVP, I'm going to go with Giannis, because I think that he is just a ridiculous player. Inside, he just puts points up and is incredibly valuable to that Bucks team. Rookie of the Year, I'm going to go with the Ball brother, because he's the number 1 overall, he wasn't the number 1 overall pick, but I think that the name has some value in the NBA, and I think that if he puts up numbers anywhere close to any other rookie, I think he's going to have the edge. As far as who's going to win, I saw a TikTok a few months ago that was supposed to be this guy from the future who was making predictions. He predicted the Chiefs would win the Super Bowl, and he predicted that the Bucks would win the NBA championship. So I'm going to say the Milwaukee Bucks win the NBA championship exclusively because of that, and they beat the Lakers in 6 games. So that's it. That's all I've got for the NBA.
Wow, quite literally going to a guy who's come from the future. That's some TikTok's a magical app. That's all I can say. The internet is
cheating.
What was that?
Am I cheating? Is that cheating?
No, you aren't cheating. I don't know. But what was I gonna say? I like the picks from MVP. I think Doncic is a good pick. I think that he will get the respect he deserves this year, because he had a great year last year and he didn't get it. I think that Luka is a very smart pick, the MVP, and that's who I was going to go with. Although Giannis probably should try as hard as he can to win the MVP, because this season he's going to make $27,528,088. for playing basketball. So that's a lot of money. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but I'm saying that's a lot. So maybe Giannis would be a smart number 2 if you're going to go with an MVP pick. For Rookie of the Year, I think it's hard because we haven't seen these guys in college. I think Obi Toppin's a good pick. I think LaMelo Ball. I was going to say Lonzo, but the other one. I guess I'm going to go with Cole Anthony. I don't really know. I don't want to take Cole. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be cool to see him have a really nice season in Orlando. So I'm going to go with Cole, although, again, we haven't seen these guys play. Who knows? I think that'll be a fun pick. And then in the finals, I do not like my finals pick at all. For the Lakers, I think you have to put in. But the Nets are just so good. I don't want to put Kyrie in there. I don't want to put Kevin Durant. There's 2 crybabies, which, by the way, a few weeks ago I said, I hope Dior never listens to Kyrie Irving. Of course, on his story, he's like, my favorite player is Kyrie. He's like talking about him. Like what was it with Sage before the Boston Celtics team?
Disgraceful.
This guy, man. Come on, people. I feel like I have to pick the Nets because those 2 are so good. And now that they're on the same team, again, I don't want them to go to the finals. I really, really don't. I'm going to have to take the Nets and the Lakers. And I think that LeBron will be able to handle them just because Anthony Davis and LeBron are a deadly matchup. But I hope you guys are right. I hope it's the Bucks. I would love for it to be the Celtics. I mean, that'd be awesome. But that's my pick for the finals as well.
Yep. So there you go. And I would have the Lakers too in a hypothetical Lakers versus Celtics matchup. So there are our finals, Rookie of the Year, and MVP predictions in terms of MVP. And now we'll shift into our MVP of the Week segment. And I have an inkling that for Dan, it's not Kyrie, and for Brennan, it is not Notre Dame football. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't think that's how it's going to unfold. My MVP of the week, though, I think is an interesting one. Maybe I'll get some pushback here, but it was specifically the Big Ten Dr. Pepper tuition giveaway because instead of risking COVID protocol and bringing in 2 people who don't know how to throw a football into a Dr. Pepper can, they decided to have Matt Leinart and Brady Quinn represent 2 students by the name of Batul and Carlos, and it actually ended in a 10-10 tie, so both got $50,000, so everybody wins in that scenario. And guess what? Matt Leinart and Brady Quinn are men, so they threw the football like a football is supposed to be thrown. And this isn't a shot at different genders or how you throw a football, this and that. This is Dr. Pepper's fault. I love the drink. It's amazing. But they have to constitute a rule with these tuition giveaways that you have to throw football overhand. These chest passes may be the most efficient way for everyone to get involved, but it looks so dumb. Someone is contending for a lot of money and they're throwing football like a basketball and a chest pass. No, reel back and throw it. It's an accuracy test, not so you could bloop it in. It looks terrible. I'm glad I got to see 2 quarterbacks do it instead of 2 unknown kids who threw it like a chest pass because that's the way that over the years people have had success doing it. And I don't blame these kids for doing the chest pass. Again, it falls on Dr. Pepper to put a rule in that it requires a normal throw. It has to be like that. It cannot be a chest pass. I'm sorry. I love Dr. Pepper, but my MVP of the week, on the negative side, it's Dr. Pepper, but my MVP of the week is Fox deciding Matt Leinart and Brady Quinn would be better than Bartul and Carlos going at it.
I'll go next. It's pretty clear. Is if I want to do an anti-MVP, it'd be the college football playoff selection committee, but I'm not going to do that. My MVP of the week, and this is something that's gotten a little bit of traction on the internet in these probably like the last week or 2, is teams tweeting when they're getting blown out. I think that it's the most hilarious thing when a team posts an update of a score and nothing else. And then just like their school hashtags or something, or their team hashtags. I think that's the funniest thing. One of the prime examples, yesterday, Crystal Palace lost to Liverpool in the Premier League, 7-0 or 7-0, as soccer fans would say. The final tweet is literally, from Crystal Palace, is literally just 0-7 Liverpool wins. That's it. That's the whole thing. And then for the goal before that, let's see, the 3 goals before that is literally 5-0 Firmino. That's it. Six, Salah. 7, Salah. They are just so disgusted by the fact that they're getting blown out, and yet they have to continue to tweet. So I feel bad for the social media teams that have to continue to do that. But I think that it's absolutely hilarious. Notre Dame yesterday was another one that just posted the score, and that was it. After they lost to Clemson, and that's my MVP of the week, is social media teams that have to post when their team is getting absolutely blown out in any kind of competition.
Which should be the MVP of the year. I mean, man, that's a tough spot. Anti-MVP would be Kyrie Irving in a Notre Dame jersey. It's the worst picture I can possibly. My runner-up has to be my homeboy Ian Flanagan from Saugerties. He came in third in The Voice last week. Let's be honest, people. He's the one who has the best shot at having a career after this. He has the most unique voice. I think that he's going to go on to definitely get a record contract somewhere. But the winner they gave to the younger kid, who, by the way, is extremely talented and connected with the audience very well, in my opinion, which is probably why he won. I am now suddenly a very big The Voice fan, and I'm the last person that saw this coming. Anyway, my MVP this week has to be Joshua Patrick Allen, born May 12th, 1996, the year after the Bills clinched the AFC East for the final time. Yesterday, clinched the AFC East for the first time in 25 years. What? It didn't even make sense when I was watching. I was like, this is not supposed to happen. We don't win the division. We don't. The Colts have won the AFC East more recently than the Bills. The Colts won it in 1999. They're not in the AFC East anymore. The Bills won it in 95. But now, with them clinching the playoffs, it's like, wow, we can lose next week, and it doesn't even matter. I've never said that before. The Bills game doesn't matter. Next week, if we could lose by 1 million points the rest of the year, it won't matter. I cannot believe this is actually happening. So it has to be Josh Allen, the man who so many doubted, and is now hopefully looks like a franchise quarterback for the Bills.
Yeah, maybe a decade to come of AFC East titles. That's obviously being hopeful, but good for the fan base. Very passionate one. Good for you, Dan. I know you've been waiting for this for a long time, and maybe the highlight of your 2020 by far, I would say, getting the Bills in the AFC title game. And AFC is clinched for the Bills. The Packers have clinched the NFC North. The Giants have not clinched a playoff spot. We'll see as it unfolds. But those are MVP of the week, all over the spectrum in terms of where we picked, but I think we had some good ones. Before we give you our NFL game picks, Brennan, do you quickly have an actives and inactives for us? In terms of the Giants, as I mentioned earlier, no Darnay Holmes at cornerback, no James Bradbury at cornerback, no Daniel Jones at quarterback. Jason Garrett's not the offensive coordinator. Our outside linebacker coach, Brett Bielema, is at Illinois. 5. So guess what? Not a great scenario for the Giants, but the rest of the league, and it should be the fantasy football playoffs, either semifinals or championship, depending on what league you're in. So it's definitely some important stuff. Brennan, actives and actives.
From the early, some actives. Matthew Stafford will play. The dude tore his cartilage last week in his ribs last week against the Packers, and yet they're just like, yeah, throw him out there. Matthew Stafford needs to get the heck out of Detroit because that place has been underground for a long time, and they will continue to be, and he is one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league at this point. He will play. Jimmy Graham also going to play. James White, running back, will play. Rashad Penny, Salvon, and Med, both active as well. Inactives, there are two big ones as far as fantasy goes. Ezekiel Elliott will not play for the Cowboys. So if you have him, go check your lineup right now. Another one, Antonio Gibson for the Washington football team, not active, will not play. Mike Gesicki for the Dolphins will not play. That factors big into the Dolphins game because him and Tua Tagovailoa had started to get a connection over the last 2 games that was looking dangerous, but he's not active. So look for the Dolphins to try and pound the ball on the ground a little bit more with Ahmed active. Devontae Parker will not play. Jakeem Grant will not play. Kyle Rudolph for the Vikings, not active. Marcus Peters on the defensive side, along with Calais Campbell, both inactive as well. So some fantasy implications there for sure. Go check your teams right now if you have to. But those are the early actives and inactives, the only ones we have so far.
Yeah, Ben, some notable names as we mentioned, or as Brian mentioned, Ezekiel Elliott, a big one, not playing. So again, set your fantasy rosters. But now we'll go into our game picks for NFL Week 15 as we look at the standings in terms of the picks. Brennan, a little separation last week. He has 148 points overall. Dan has 141. I have 136. Overall record is 116-79 for me, 126-69 for Brennan, and 124-71 for Dan. If you don't know the rules, each game is worth 1 point unless it's a lock, upset, or game of the week pick. Those are worth 2. We don't pick with the spread, but we give you the spread for full context when looking at these games. We'll start with the game of the week, and this week, no doubt, it's Chiefs versus Saints, 425, CBS game. You got Patrick Mahomes versus supposedly a returning Drew Brees for the New Orleans Saints. A close game, I think. I have the Chiefs, and not to spoil things going forward for our locks and upsets, but I also have them in another category as well. But frankly, I'm going to pick Mahomes over Drew Brees, especially returning. I understand it's in New Orleans, but I think that helps in the Dome rather than in whatever Kansas City conditions are like in late December. So I'm riding the Chiefs. Brennan, KC or New Orleans?
I think that the Saints offense lags a little bit this week. I think that they had gotten into a rhythm with Taysom Hill as quarterback. Another key factor in that, Michael Thomas is now on the injured reserve, so he will not play this week. I think the Saints offense lags a little bit behind the quality of their defense, and for that reason, I think the Chiefs come out and they win this game. I think the Chiefs are the best team, by far and away the best team. Sorry, Dan. I don't mean this when I say it, only because you're sitting here, but I think they're the best team in the AFC, and I think that they're going to be able to come away with a win against the Saints, who I think are the second best team in the NFC.
I also have the Chiefs, and I also agree with you. I think the Chiefs are a lot better than the Bills.
Okay.
It makes me nervous, I think the Bills can beat them. I don't know if they will. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, for this game, I think the Chiefs will win this one. Now that the Saints aren't starting their tight end as quarterback, I don't know how I feel about Drew Brees anymore. I'm going to have to take Patrick Mahomes because I know he's going to play really well.
Yep. And in terms of that game, it was Saints opened up at +5, now +3, so maybe something to look out for. But we have the Chiefs across the board. We'll go now to our locks, and in terms of our locks, I'm 9-5, Brennan's 9-5, and Dan is 8-6, probably our most successful category, so pay attention here. And I'm going with the Chiefs. Sorry, New Orleans +3, it's too good of a number for me, and especially just picking them outright as well, which are our rules. I'm picking KC. Maybe it's a cheap one. Maybe I'm trying to double down and make that a 4-point play if the Chiefs win. Maybe it's strategy, but I think the Chiefs are definitely the lock here in NFL Week 15. It's a week where a lot of games you don't know really, maybe in terms of a lock, but our rules are it has to be under -7 for it to constitute as one. There's a lot of big spreads out there, so I think this one's a really good one, and it's a primetime game everyone's going to be watching, and I have the Chiefs in this one. Brennan, your lock is unfortunately on Sunday Night Football.
It is. I'm going to pick the Browns over the Giants. I picked against Colt McCoy his last start, and I'm going to do it again. I don't think Colt McCoy is an NFL starter-level quarterback. Obviously, as a backup on the Giants, that's like the lowest bar of the lows. But I'm going to go with the Browns as my lock. I think that at 7 points, I think the Browns have a good spread. And, John, as you mentioned earlier, I think that the Browns' running game is just too strong for the Giants' defense. I think that Nick Chubb might run for maybe 600 yards this game, possibly, and pick up the NFL lead in rushing yards. So I think that the Browns are going to be able to handle this one pretty easily. Dan, looking at you, you're going with a team that not a lot of wins this year, but playing a team that doesn't have a lot of wins either.
Yeah, I just like taking locks against the Cowboys. I think it's funny. I'm really always annoyed by the Cowboys. So I'm taking the Niners. It's definitely going to be a close one. The spread is 3.5. Niners on the road. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, I mean, I just don't like the Cowboys. I think it's funny to pick against them. And I don't have any crazy predictions like 600 rushing yards. That's also one of the best parts of this show is when Brennan takes someone to run for like 700 yards. So entertaining. Yeah, maybe the Niners run for 600 yards, one guy. I hope so. I guess we'll find out.
Well, what's crazy, by the way, going back to Chubb, I think he's missed 4 games, but is top 5 in the league in rushing, so really shows how good of a back he is, and they have Kareem Hunt as well, so not great for the Giants, but we'll shift into our upsets now. It's a good game, I think. It's going underrated just because the teams have been so this season, but you got Bears, Vikings, both teams 6-7. The winner puts themselves in a good position for a wild card slot, and the other one will have a lot to come back from. I'm picking the Bears over the Vikings as my upset of the week, and It's frankly, I know the Bears have some defensive injuries, but I was impressed with their offense last week against a good Houston team. The Vikings are so inconsistent, and I'm done picking them. So I'm picking the Bears. Dan, you're in agreement with your upset of the week.
I'm taking the Bears this week as well. I just think, well, a few weeks ago when they lost, I was like, there's no way this team is that bad. They lost to the Lions. And so this week they have Minnesota, and they're not favored. I think they should win this week too, especially if they actually do want to make the playoffs. So this week I'm taking the Bears as well.
I don't like any. I'm not going to pick any teams from the NFC North. That being said, I'm picking the Vikings in that game anyway. And if I want to win money, I'm going to need the Vikings to win by more than 3 points. Hey. That being said, I'm going to go with the Patriots as my upset of the week. They are 1.5-point dogs to the Miami Dolphins. And this coming after the Patriots put 40 points on the, I almost said San Diego, on the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Patriots are a better team than we kind of give them credit for. Obviously, with a former MVP at quarterback and probably the greatest coach of all time, I think that any team that they play is going to have trouble with them. And I think the Patriots are going to be able to come out and win this game against the Dolphins. I mentioned earlier, Mike Gesicki is out for the Miami Dolphins, and that is going to make things a lot harder on Tua Tagovailoa because him and Gesicki had started finding a connection there, and Gesicki had been his primary target these last 2 weeks. I think that's a big question mark for the Dolphins offensively. I think the Patriots are going to be able to come out and win. And in case you want to know what my ticket is, it is Vikings to cover at 3 and Patriots to win outright at plus 130 as on a parlay 10 to win 40. So it's not that big of a deal. But hey, why not?
And that's done legally, I would assume.
It is. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it is. Absolutely legally. I drove to Drainstone Resort and Casino yesterday and put my bet in. So I'm good.
So, yeah, there you go. And in terms of the upsets, it's been a downfall for us, but Brennan's definitely hoping it locks in for him today. 4-10, and it's what Dan and I are, and Brennan is 5-9 in terms of upsets.
I should have said that straight up, huh?
Yeah. But no, we'll go now into our NFL game picks for Week 15. We did pick off the show, but we did put in the Google sheet yesterday for where we put our picks. Bills, Packers, they both took care of business, so you could say we're 2-0 in the week. I think most people would have picked that anyway. But Dan, we'll start with Bucks Falcons. Interesting game in the NFC South.
This segment is brought to you by legal sports betting. Legal sports betting.
Yes. Yeah. If you want proof, yesterday I saw a man put $5,000 on a parlay for the Bills and Packers to both win straight up. He made $3,000. So that is proof that I was actually at the casino.
That guy is nuts, but okay.
Yeah, right?
Large brain. But we'll shift into our segment, and the first game we have is the Buccaneers and the Falcons. All three of us have the Buccaneers. They're favored by 6.5 on the road. They are better than the Falcons, so take them.
Seahawks versus Washington football team. Seattle -7. Washington will be without Alex Smith. They're starting Dwayne Haskins. For that reason, we have Seattle across the board.
Next up, Bears versus Vikings. Already talked about it a little bit. Two of us have it as the upset of the week, but that's not me. I'm going with the Vikings. Everyone else has the Bears. I don't like picking NFC North teams in general, but I'm going to go with the Vikings in this one. Next game up, Patriots versus Dolphins. I have the Patriots as my upset of the week at 1.5 against Miami. Everyone else has the Patriots as well, but I was the only one who wanted to put 2 points down on it. So all three of us with the Patriots.
Then we get the 49ers and the Cowboys. I like the 49ers because I like laughing at the Cowboys. All three of us have the 49ers. They're 3.5-point favorites on the road.
Colts versus Texans is the next one. I think the Colts defense is elite, probably top 5 in the league. And I think that the Texans at this point don't really have anything to play for. So I'm going to go with the Colts. Everyone else agrees with me on that one as well. Colts over Texans at 8.
Then we have the Jaguars and the Ravens. All three of us have the Ravens. The Ravens have kind of fallen, and they might be able to get up. We're not really sure. But Gardner Minshew is just not the answer, people. And at one point, they were talking about starting him. So this week, take Baltimore. They are 13-point favorites at home.
Lions versus Titans. Titans -10.5. We have Titans across the board. Watch that number, but Tennessee's ground game is going to do wonders against Tennessee.
Jets Rams is a 17-point spread. I don't have to tell you in which direction. All three of us have the Rams in this one, but maybe in nature I would take a Jet versus a Ram. I don't know. Let's move on.
Eagles versus Cardinals. Arizona -7. They're at home, so it's in the dome. We have Cardinals across the board. I think it's going to be a close one, but we do have Arizona. Game of the week, as we mentioned, Chiefs versus Saints. All of us have Chiefs. I have it as my lock. And then finally, for at least me, Sunday Night Football, the battle of Mayfield versus McCoy, and it will be something to watch for the Giants' point of view. I have the Giants, of course. Bren has it as his lock, and Dan has the Browns as well. I don't know what to say. You can go back into our show and give you the reasoning of why the Giants maybe have a shot, but it looks bleak for them. But Sunday Night Football, hopefully they don't get embarrassed on primetime. And then finally, Brennan, Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I do like Mayfield versus McCoy, though. I think that's the updated version of Hatfields and McCoys. Yes. But I like Steelers in the Monday Night Football game. Everyone else does as well. It's 14-point spread. And who are the Bengals starting quarterback? Is it Zach Finley?
Ryan Finley, yeah.
Who knows? Who cares? Bengals aren't going to be able to move the ball on offense. Their offensive line's atrocious. Pittsburgh is going to rack up probably, I don't know. You want me to throw a number out there?
Yeah.
20 sacks this game.
Wow.
20 sacks for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Wow. So that's enticing to watch Monday Night Football to see if that number hits. By the way, I stole Mayfield versus McCoy from the Post. Don't think I'm that smart. But that does it for the MVP show for today, December 20th. Everyone out there, have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays. However, just be happy during this time. It's been a tough year, so be with the ones who you love and family. And Merry Christmas. We all wear the holiday sweaters today. If you tuned in for any show for this week, we appreciate you doing so. We'll be back soon. And thank you again for watching or listening or however you consumed us this 2024. Dan Passante and Brennan Miller. I'm John Vicari. Thanks for watching.